Happy Monday morning, everybody. Welcome into Morning JOX here on JOX 94.5. Conrad Van Order, Damian Mitchell here with you until 7 o'clock on National Championship Game Day. That's right. We finally made it, the final day of the college football season. And tonight, Ohio State and Notre Dame will do battle. And I guess we know who Damian's rooting for now, based on his apparel choice today. But you're going to have Ohio State and Notre Dame going on tonight, and it's perfect because it's, going to be like 2 degrees outside. So you want to be inside watching football, and you will certainly have the ability to do that tonight with the national championship game. So we're going to spend time breaking that down. But, of course, we have to recap everything from a jam-packed weekend as well. Alabama and Auburn on the hardwood. Man, 2 fantastic games for both Alabama and Auburn this weekend in SEC hoops, as well as the NFL postseason. And the divisional round definitely better than the wild card round. We had 4 games over the weekend. I know some fans here, some of our friends here, probably a little disappointed with the results, but it was a great weekend. So we have a lot to cover, a lot to get to for you today. Of course, we're going to share our picks for the national championship game at the end of the show today, and you can text in at 205-834-9450. We normally do final score Friday, but Damian, let's do final score Monday. Text in, call in. What's your prediction for the game tonight? Who do you have? Ohio State, Notre Dame. Throw in a score prediction. We will read those throughout the show here. But how you doing this morning, Damian? You look a little chilly, man.
Yeah, it's cold. It's a when they talk about the polar blast that's hitting the U.S., we're definitely feeling down here in Alabama, man. And we need to be weather aware these next couple days. Chances of snow more than likely going to happen. But all in all, man, it was for the last little bit of last week, it was a little bit warmer, and you kind of appreciate it.
Saturday.
Exactly, you learn to appreciate it. Because the last couple days it has been absolutely freezing, and it's going to be absolutely freezing the next couple days. But no, it's an exciting Monday, man. Of course, this is Martin Luther King Day, and want to pay our respects to him as we observe his national holiday and everything that he did for this nation. Also Inauguration Day. It's just a jam-packed Monday. With the national championship, of course, between Ohio State and Notre Dame. And yeah, you can probably tell if you're watching on YouTube, you can tell who I'm probably going to be pulling for when we make our picks. But I do think it's going to be an exciting football game. Yes, we know there's no SEC representation, but there's still going to be college football. It's the last college football game of the season, and we're going to crown a national champion. But just over the weekend, to your point on the NFL slate, I mean, in the NFC for sure, it felt like it was Detroit's to lose at this point, because they had shown in the regular season that they were the best team in the NFC for sure, but they ended up falling to the Washington Commanders. You see the battle between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen last night, between the Ravens and the Bills. Of course, the Rams, they fall to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Kansas City Chiefs, as ugly as it may be, they find a way to win. Now they have some help from the Zebras, absolutely. Listen, Will Anderson spared no bones. Him and D'Amico Ryans were like, when you say it was us versus everybody, they meant everybody on the football field, including the referees. But all in all, it was a great weekend. And of course, on the basketball slate, Auburn get a nail-biting win there against Georgia and Alabama. If you had watched Alabama's team, it is all summed up in 1 week. You see how bad of a shooting performance they had against Ole Miss earlier in the week. And in the weekend, the tall task that is Kentucky. All they do is go up there and score 102 points. It's a complete change of the guard between what we saw in the middle of the week and then the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's start there with what happened on the hardwood over the weekend. And you mentioned that Alabama gets their win over Kentucky, 102-97 there in Rupp Arena. This was, obviously I had a rooting interest in this game, but this was probably the best college basketball season of the season that I've seen so far. I know there's a lot of games that I haven't seen, but out of all the games I've seen, especially in the SEC, I think this was the best one. It was the most entertaining because it was back and forth for an entire 40 minutes. It was just, the atmosphere was fantastic. You had moments where Alabama would go on a little run, then Kentucky would come back and go on a little run, and it truly was I mean, it was a nail biter until, about the final minute. And you never really knew, was Kentucky going to make one more shot? Was Alabama going to make one more shot? But ultimately, Alabama, behind a strong first half from Grant Nelson, he kind of led the way there early. He had 25 points and 11 rebounds. Best game he's had this year. Absolutely, for Grant Nelson. Mark Sears finishes with 24 points. And think about this, Mark Sears. So, he had 16 points going into the final, I don't know, like 2 or 3 minutes of the basketball game. 0 free throws. He then gets 9 free throw attempts, goes 8 of 9 down the stretch to finish with 24 points. That was one of the things that was very nice to see, was free throw shooting for Alabama was excellent. They go 29 of 34 from the line. And that was a big part of what carried them. Is Kentucky, on the other hand, they go 16 of 20, so a good percentage. But with Alabama, you're getting 14 more trips to the charity stripe. And ultimately, that kind of ended up being the difference. But, I mean, you mentioned it. You instead of turning the ball over 21 times, turn the ball over 10 times.
Boom.
Amazing how things like that work out for you there. But, yeah, I mean, you shoot 38% from deep. I thought Cliff Amore had probably the best game that he's had at Alabama, just constantly being a presence in the paint, having a few alley-oop opportunities. So he was big. Phylon was hitting some threes. It really was just kind of a complete all-around effort. Mo Diabate, big defensively and on the offensive boards there late, getting a couple second chance opportunities for Alabama. And it was great, man. I will give credit to Owe, though, from Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, he was hooping.
That dude was making you could tell there were a couple times that he was like, all right, if y'all aren't going to do anything, I'm going to take this game into my hands. And he was making plays happen on both sides of the court. He was excellent for Kentucky. And, this is a Kentucky team that, I mean, if you heard what Nate Oates said after the game, he had some very high praise for Mark Pope and for the Wildcats and that basketball program. And they're going to have an excellent season as well. But for Alabama, as you said, Damian, just the juxtaposition from having the ugly, ugly, ugly performance against Ole Miss in the middle of the week, then going on the road to Kentucky, and you're, man, just don't know how this is going to go. Darion Reed's still not available for you, so you're a little short-handed. But you go out there and you find a way to get a win, and you drop 100 on the road at Rupp Arena. That'll do. That'll do.
Absolutely, and it was a crunk game. And then we look at the Auburn side of things with them taking on Georgia. Probably not the prettiest of it, but it was.
This game was drunk at the end.
Oh, boy. Sweet Jesus. And here's the thing. You knew Auburn was going in wounded because now you're learning how to play without Janai Broome. We got the first taste of it with Mississippi State. You got the home court advantage. Now you're going on the road against a Georgia team that is much improved from where they have been, and the way that they came out. I mean, they gave Auburn everything that they wanted. And I think on both sides of the court, you started to realize, okay, we're going to need people to make shots. Now, Chad Baker-Mazara, if that's now the number one option, he's going to get his. He's going to get his shots. But Tahad Pettiford coming off the bench having 24. The thing about this Auburn team is they're so deep. And it's almost very similar to how the NBA is now, where it's just positionless. Like now with Janai Broome being off the floor, you have a big post presence in Dylan Carwell, but he's not your offensive. He's not going to put up any points. He's there for defensive purposes.
He had 2 points on Saturday.
Exactly. Like he is there. He knows his role. So it's more like 4 out, 1 in, and you're playing kind of just the spread out version of what it would be if Janai Broome is still on the floor, but his ability to stretch it kind of gives you that. So now for Auburn, you're starting to, you're hitting the meat part of the SEC schedule. You know what this SEC slate is going to look like. And now to have Janai Broome not be in, but still see, the Tahad Pettiford. I mean, he's coming off the bench doing this stuff. Like, it's not like he's starting the game off. It's, he's got the hot hand. Give it to him. Find a way to give him the ball by any means necessary. But I think that for Georgia too, because we've seen Georgia struggle for so long, it's actually kind of just an eye-opening experience. Like, Georgia's actually not that bad of a basketball team. And I think that we're going to be looking at this Georgia team as like, okay, they may, be a deeper seed in March Madness, but they're going to be a problem for a lot of teams because they just don't give up. That's one thing I will say about this Georgia Bulldogs team. No matter, it felt like Auburn was starting to pull away a little bit here and there, but then Georgia was like, nah, we're defending home court for a reason. And I thought it was one of the better games that we've seen from both sides of it. And Auburn ends up taking it 70-68.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. It was an excellent game, and it kicked off or tipped off, in the middle of the Alabama Kentucky game, and so you're in the middle of that battle, and I'll be honest, I had the Auburn game on like a second screen, and I'm kind of peeking over there and paying attention, when I can, and then you just start watching, and you're like, okay, we're getting off to a good start here, and then boom, you look up, and it was 24-8 Auburn, and you're just going, oh man, okay, well this really isn't going to be much of a game. But to their credit, like you were saying, Georgia finding a way to battle back and make it interesting there in the first half, and going on a run of their own, and then again, it was a game where it felt like Auburn was in control. Granted, Georgia was able to make it interesting, but you just felt like Auburn kind of had that upper hand throughout a large part of the game. And then, this was the poster child game for people that don't like, oh, I don't like watching basketball because, the last 30 seconds always takes like 30 minutes. And I just don't like all the fouling and all the different, all this and that. Well, that's what you got in this game, because it felt like the last, 8 seconds of the game or whatever it was took like 20 minutes. And it was just insane. And the fact that Georgia even had an opportunity there late, to do the little the pass from the baseline and try to get a tip up, and I mean, hey, they got the look they wanted.
Exactly.
It was close. Not to mention, the three they got before that in the corner that would have ultimately tied things before they went to the free throw line. But yeah, the end of this game was absolutely insane. And yes, I know, there were a lot of people that had not seen Georgia's basketball court before. It's hideous. Yes, we can all acknowledge that. I saw a lot of people saying, yeah, I guess I just haven't really paid attention to Georgia basketball, but that court is awful. Yeah, it's pretty bad. They need to do a different color scheme. Just do a normal, wood finish with the Bulldog logo. I think that'd be fine. But yeah, the gray is definitely a weird look. But no, I mean, Georgia, like you said, I mean, I know things got out of hand in the second half against Tennessee, but I mean, you had a lead against Tennessee in the first half of that one on the road. You take Auburn to the wire again. You're not in the business of moral victories, but I mean, you pair that with, knocking off Kentucky earlier in the year, beating Oklahoma. You can see why they were a top 25 team, and they're going to fall out now after 2 losses. But, that's just another case to the depth of the SEC, right? A team like Georgia that is typically an afterthought in the world of basketball, unless it was, an Anthony Edwards there a few years ago. They're now a legitimate top 25 team and an NCAA tournament team. And it just kind of goes to show how difficult life is here in the SEC. And hey, I mean, speaking of them, ask Tennessee and their trip to Nashville over the weekend.
They had a rough week. They've had a rough week.
Yes, they have.
They have. After the absolute beatdown they got from Florida in the middle of the week, Vanderbilt steals one over the weekend, knocking off the Tennessee Volunteers 76-75, and that number 1 ranking early on is just falling by the wayside here in the past couple weeks. And I think we all can sit here and say that Arkansas is the worst SEC basketball team.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I mean, Coach Cal, I knew this was going to be a challenge, but it's
getting blown out by Missouri.
By Mizzou. And that's the thing. Like, Missouri is completely different from what they have been. And for Arkansas,
they're solid, but
exactly. I don't think they're 18 points better than Arkansas, but
well, they are.
They are. As Arkansas falls 83-65 over the weekend. Just wrapping up the SEC basketball slate, Oklahoma knocks off South Carolina 82-62. The Egg Bowl of basketball between Ole Miss and Mississippi State goes into overtime, and Mississippi State knocks off Ole Miss 84-81, and Texas A&M knocks off LSU 68-57. And Florida just keeps on winning after a big win over Texas 84-60. So just again, the SEC this year, for everything that we may have been upset in football season, we are getting the best basketball we've seen in a long time in the Southeastern Conference, where we're seeing, top teams go down, and really and truly, you just got to find a way to get one. You just got to find a way to get one. And right now, you look at the slate, it's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out. We had some divisional rounds, had some divisional matchups in the NFL. Want to recap that. And of course, it's Final Score Monday. We have a national championship. We have a national champion we have to crown in college football tonight between Ohio State and Notre Dame. We'll talk about the football field here with the NFL when we return on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5. 619 here on Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order, and you as well, our wonderful listeners, 205-834-9450. We still have football to recap from the weekend. As we know, the NFL has the conference championship set up because of the events that happened over this weekend. Of course, we had two games on both Saturday and Sunday. And it's, listen, people say that, the Chiefs, they hadn't looked that great this season and they found ways to win. It wasn't the best. It was sloppy. But the one thing that has been consistent, they win. And there's no other way to put it. Of course, Saturday got the NFL Divisional Round started as the Kansas City Chiefs knock off the Houston Texans 23-14. And that score may sound like it never really felt like Houston had a chance. They had a chance every third down they had. I will promise you that. Like they were hitting their third downs at a great clip, but they just couldn't put it in the end zone. And when it comes to these type teams, and we saw it a lot, the big mantra, especially when Alabama was in their dominance, is you can't settle for field goals when you get to the red zone. You have to score touchdowns, and the Houston Texans weren't able to finish a lot of the drives. But if you watch the game, there's Kansas City. This is probably the first time where I was like, okay, people that can argue about the refs kind of leaning one way. There were some questionable plays, especially early on when they got Will Anderson for a roughing the passer when it was a helmet to helmet when all he did was just push him.
That was bogus, yeah.
All he did was push him.
And then the Chiefs did the same thing to C.J. Stroud, no call.
Tearing him up, like
no call.
Tearing his mouth out.
Yep.
And I mean, it's difficult. But the one thing about the Kansas City Chiefs, they still find a way. They still find a way to win, as they will be advancing to the AFC Championship game, and they will be taking on, and the nightcap from last night, the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. And I know everybody's probably going to look at Mark Andrews as public enemy number one. And a lot of coaches and players will tell you, one play doesn't necessarily change everything. But with a little under 2 minutes left in that ball game, the Ravens are down 27-19. And you got to get a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in order to tie the game up. And you still leave Josh Allen with about a minute and some change left. But Lamar Jackson runs an absolutely beautiful 2-minute drill. He's, scrambling around the pocket. He ends up finding Isaiah Likely in a wonderful play. I mean, keeps the pocket alive. He's scrambling around, hits him, gets a touchdown. And you see your typical 2-point plays as some sort of rub route, try to just get somebody open in the flats. You're paying Mark Andrews a lot of money. He is a professional NFL tight end, and even he is human. As you can argue, like, if it's a better pass, if he hits him. I'll put it like this. Mark Andrews is getting paid a bunch of money for when the ball hits his hands, he's ensuring that catch. But Lamar Jackson rolls out, hits him in the flat. Mark Andrews bobbles it, and Buffalo just absolutely erupts. Like it's mayhem. And it wasn't like Josh Allen was going out there, throwing it for 800 yards. No, he only had 7 passing attempts in the first half. Like it was kind of just, hey, take what the defense is giving you. We'll hit you on some bubble screens. It's probably -6-degree wind chill anyway, so it wasn't like you wanted to be throwing it all over the yard. But the turnovers for Baltimore were the absolute backbreakers because they had drives. They were having moments where it's like, okay, they're finding their way. They were down 10 at halftime. And it just felt as though more like Baltimore let it get away than it felt that Buffalo was just separating. They were capitalizing on Baltimore's mistakes, and that's all it really was in that ball game. And Josh Allen, 16 for 22, 127 yards, only had 20 yards rushing, but he had two rushing touchdowns. So the added value that he brings with his legs ended up being the ultimate equalizer. And Lamar Jackson, a couple turnovers. Mark Andrews also fumbled earlier in the ball game, and it just, one big mistake after another. And it just felt as though you really felt strong that, okay, if Baltimore was going to get it, this was going to be the year because they had played absolutely phenomenally. You add Derrick Henry to an already, exciting offense as far as rushing the football. He had 16 carries for 84 yards, and it was probably more of the hardest 84 yards he's ever had to earn because in the first half, he only rushed for 21, and then he started to pick up the pace a little bit in the second half, but in the end, Buffalo, Kansas City, another rematch. This time, the winner goes to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it sets up, the storyline's going to be great, if Buffalo's able to do it. I think Buffalo's going to be the team that everyone roots for now, since the Lions got eliminated, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But, the thing about these two AFC games that's bizarre is, the Ravens one you can kind of understand because of the turnovers, right? But you had almost 150 more yards of offense than the Bills did, and you lose the football game. Similarly, the Texans had over 100 yards more of offense than the Chiefs did, and they lose that ball game, and they lost that one by 2 scores. Also, just a quick side note, one of the worst bad beats I've ever seen in the Texans and Chiefs game, because they were a 9.5-point favorite, and Patrick Mahomes takes the safety at the end to make it a 9-point game. Yeah, just in one reason that I just kind of don't really dip my toes into that world, because I know I know what it sets you up for a lot of the time. But for Buffalo last night, like you said, I mean, it was capitalizing on Baltimore's mistakes, right? Because Baltimore, you had the Mark Andrews fumble. Obviously, he dropped the 2-point conversion. You had another opportunity where you were down there at the 2-yard line, and you try to kind of get cute with it a little bit. You're not just, instead of just handing it off to Derrick Henry 4 times in a row, you get a little cute with it. You end up, similar to what we talked about with Texas against Ohio State at the end of that game. You get backed up, you lose a couple of yards, and you end up having to kick a field goal instead of being able to score a touchdown. And ultimately, if you look at the scoreboard, that would have been a difference in the ball game there. And there were just, Lamar Jackson completely missing on I think it was to Rashad Bateman early on in the game, where he just sailed it over his head for an interception. You had Lamar Jackson putting the ball on the ground with a fumble as well. And it was just, it was uncharacteristic for Lamar Jackson, a guy who had 3 interceptions the entire season. 3 interceptions. And he has an interception and a fumble in the first half of this game. The first time all year he had multiple turnovers in the same game. And it just so happens to come in the in the playoffs, when that absolutely cannot happen. So, yeah, that one's gonna sting for Baltimore. At least I guess if in terms of narrative, you can't blame Lamar Jackson for that one. I would just put it like that. Granted, he had some opportunities, he made his mistakes, but he was down double digits at halftime, and he brought that team back. And you had every opportunity to send that game to OT. And unfortunately, you just come up a little short, but. Hey, for the Buffalo Bills, I mean, this is what you've been waiting for, man. You knocked off the Chiefs in the regular season, which they have been capable of doing for the last few years, but they haven't been able to do it in the postseason. And this is your best chance, in my opinion. I think this Chiefs team this year is worse than the team last year. You don't have a guy like a Rashee Rice. I think that was a big part of last year in the postseason, was he was coming along at the end of his rookie year and really was kind of a game changer for them. You don't have that anymore. Travis Kelce was massive, though, in that game the other night, over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown. And it seems like that's going to be kind of their way moving forward, is run it through Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and hope that he can keep turning back Father Time just a little bit. But if you're Buffalo, man, this is your chance. This is your opportunity. Get to the Super Bowl and get over the hump that is Patrick Mahomes, because who knows what the future is going to hold for the Chiefs, but this just feels like the year that they're more gettable than they have been. But again, I mean, it's the Chiefs, and you're going to have to go play them in Arrowhead, and it's going to be rocking, but it should be exciting. I think this is what a lot of people wanted to see, was Chiefs and Bills, just for the storylines that's going to bring. It should be a great matchup. So excited to see how that one plays out. And but the NFC side of the bracket was just as entertaining, Damian.
It was. If you wanted points, you definitely got it on Saturday night. The Detroit Lions and the Washington Commanders. And for some, listen, we've seen Jaden Daniels here in the South. We've seen what he could do, what he could be in the SEC with him winning the Heisman and keeping that LSU team afloat. But if you told me he was going to be this good, this fast in his rookie season, I'd be like, okay, well, maybe in a couple years we'll see him just fully develop. The Detroit Lions played probably their worst game they've played all season long.
Arguably, yeah.
And they kept fighting, but they could not stop the Washington offense at any single level. And you gifted them multiple opportunities to also continue to score at a high clip. Jared Goff. Listen, I am a big Jared Goff supporter, but anytime you throw 3 interceptions in a playoff game and crucial, I mean, just absolutely bone crushing, at least 2 of them. The last one, I mean, the game was, you were just fighting and it was just bad. Like, I think for Detroit, this is difficult. This is difficult to process. But when you have, 42 points in a quarter by both teams, I don't know how else to describe it, because Jahmyr Gibbs did everything he could. You get David Montgomery back healthy. It was strictly your quarterback making bad mistakes. And the one throw he had Jameson Williams wide open, there's no safety.
Mm-hmm.
If you let it go when he's like, as soon as he puts his last foot in the ground and break it to the boat, like, just let him run under it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you let the rookie from Michigan, you let him undercut it. But it was strictly on the quarterback. It was his performance. Jared Goff, 23 for 40, 313 yards, 1 touchdown, but 3 absolutely bad picks. But Jaden Daniels, I mean, he is. I mean, I put it like this: if you're Philadelphia, you better be on your A game, because this offense, if Cliff Kingsbury's calling them up, dialing them up like he did, it's going to be an absolutely great game.
Yeah, I mean, I'll right now, I would go with the Commanders over the Eagles in this game, just because Jaden Daniels has played significantly better football than Jalen Hurts has of late. But yeah, if you're the Lions, you're in a tough spot now, because they're kind of in the same spot that the Rams were in a few years ago, where you're able to get, on a good run in the playoffs. You're just close enough, but you need a quarterback that can really kind of elevate your offense in these clutch situations. Well, no, there's a quarterback in Los Angeles that I think, if Detroit was able to work on a deal in the offseason,
Are you talking about Justin Herbert?
No. He was bad. The other one, they share a stadium.
Oh,
but, just a guy that has experience in the postseason. Saber's agreeing with me. Maybe has a Super Bowl.
They had him for 12 years.
Resume. Okay, but they didn't give him the supporting cast that he needed.
He had Megatron.
It's just beautiful how things come full circle in life, isn't it, Damian? The fact that we are at this moment in time, it's just cherish this. It's a beautiful thing. It really, really is.
Is it?
Yes, it is. It's beautiful. Unless you're you and Molly, because y'all are both devastated for different reasons. But all things considered, it was an excellent game. Yes, Jared Goff was bad. Not as bad as the game where he had 5 interceptions earlier.
They won that game.
I know, and they won. They somehow won that game. But no, I mean, look, credit to Detroit, because it was ugly in the first half.
Yeah.
And when Teddy Bridgewater has to come in, and then you do the reverse to Jameson Williams, and he takes it to the house, and you're just like, okay, like, we got ourselves a ball game. They're going to figure this out. But no, just too much Jaden Daniels and not enough Jared Goff. So it's unfortunate. I was pulling for the Lions. I think a lot of people were, if you didn't have a team in the postseason, I think a lot of people were pulling for the Lions. Look, you had a great regular season. You had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. Granted, that really didn't affect you, but people seem to be making an excuse after you lost a game. But everyone was talking about how great the defense was with all these injuries, despite all these injuries in the second half of the season. So I guess some people want to have their cake and eat it too. But that's a tough one for Lions fans. I know a lot of people thought it was just destiny. You're going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I'll be honest, I bought into that too. I thought they were the best team in the NFC as well, but
they were.
Jared Goff unfortunately comes up a little short for you, and now you're going to have to replace some coordinators and run it back next year. So this Lions team's going to look a lot different. This was your chance. So it stings, but the fact that Jaden Daniels, the Washington Commanders, I would say in our lifetime, the Lions, the Browns, and the Commanders / Redskins have been probably the 3 worst football teams over the last 20, 25 years. Just complete, utter disappointment year in and year out, essentially, for all of those organizations. And for Jaden Daniels to come in here as a rookie and win multiple road playoff games. He has run more playoff games on the road. Well, first off, he's won more playoff games than Derek Carr. He's won more than Dak Prescott. He's won more than, I mean, the list goes on, but the guys that he's already surpassed in his first year in the NFL is remarkable. So I think a lot of people are going to be cheering for the Commanders moving forward. Sorry, Damian.
Hey, it happens, man. It happens. And just to wrap up the NFC, it wasn't his fault. I'll give him this. Like he did everything he was supposed to. And that was Matthew Stafford, quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams, 26-44, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams, I mean, you just cannot fumble the ball. Like, just hold on to the ball.
Well, and you can't let Saquon run multiple 60-plus yard touchdowns. Man, the second one he had at the end, it was like 78 yards or whatever it was. That was the fastest I've seen anybody run in snow. In the snow. I was like, I was just waiting for him to fall, and he was incredible.
Yeah, man. The Philadelphia Eagles, man. Like so I look at it like this. The Giants and the Titans have to be two of the, like, just the dumbest franchises I've ever seen to literally let their franchise running back walk.
Well, we were told running backs aren't valued anymore. They don't matter, Damien.
Man, I would have had a blank check on Derrick Henry's locker and said, whatever number you want, we will make it work. And the same way for the New York Giants. You openly chose Daniel Jones over Saquon Barkley. And all he's done is go to your division rival and lead them to the NFC Championship game. Saquon Barkley, in the snow now, in Philadelphia, he had 2 explosive runs, and also Jalen Hurts had a 44-yard touchdown run as well. But all he did was go for 26 carries, 205 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Boy out here putting up Derrick Henry numbers in the playoff game when you need them most. In snowy Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, if you cannot stop them running, you're going to have an absolute you're going to have a buzzsaw in your hands. But I do think the NFC Championship game is going to be nice. We get a chance to see what Jaden Daniels does as a rookie. Again, a division rival with the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship. So that's the NFL playoff weekend. We'll get to your phone calls, your text messages, 205-834-9450. We return here on Morning JOX and JOX 94.5.
6:40. Welcome back into Morning Jocks here on Jocks 94.5. Conrad and Damien here with you, about to break down the national championship game and hear from you, your thoughts from the weekend as well. But before we do that, got a special opportunity that I want to share with y'all. And this is for No Shoes Nation, because No Shoes Nation is headed to a new dimension here in 2025. Kenny Chesney will be live at the Sphere in Las Vegas for 12 shows this May and June, and you could be there to take it all in. One lucky winner is going to score a trip for two to this once-in-a-lifetime concert experience. It includes round-trip airfare to Las Vegas, a 2-night stay at the Virgin Hotel, entry into the VIP pool party, and 2 VIP tickets to see Kenny Chesney live at the Sphere in Las Vegas. To enter, all you have to do is text the national keyword Kenny to 95819. Again, text Kenny, Kenny, to 95819. Contest rules are available for you at jocksfm.com. Good luck.
All right, 205-834-9450. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's talk to our buddy Dave in Hoover. Wants to talk some ball with us this morning. What's going on this morning, Dave?
Well, you talking about running backs, man. What about your team letting old Derrick Henry out of town?
I brought that up.
I know he's got looks like he's got 10 years left the way he's running.
You ain't lying. It's a tough watch.
He shows no sign of letting up.
Man.
And it looks like maybe some of these teams are going to start looking to get some of these backs a little earlier. You know, years ago, backs were a big commodity early in the draft, and then they dropped off for about 10 years. Like, yeah, you just don't get a running back unless he's like a Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, you know, Saquon Barkley. That's about it. But now I think people are starting to think that, you know, controlling the line of scrimmage, and, you know, really the thing with Jaden Daniels was amazing, but bottom line was they ran all over Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're averaging 10 yards a clip.
They couldn't stop him at any point, man. I mean, even Jahmyr Gibbs for Detroit, like everybody thought it was so crazy of them to take him as early as they did, and they got their return on investment instantly.
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. All right, guys. Hey, have a great day.
You as well, Dave.
I'm still mad at Bill O'Brien because, you watch Jahmyr Gibbs and you're like, he was good that year at Alabama, but man, feels like they left something on the table with him.
Could have ran for 2,000 if they wanted to.
He was nice.
The one clip I remember from Jahmyr Gibbs when he was at Alabama, and I was just like, okay, this dude's special. It was against Arkansas when like he was in cruise control after he got past the secondary, and he like jogged another 60 and nobody was in the screen. It was just like, okay,
he's a special player.
He really is. And Detroit, get ready. You want to have to open up that piggy bank.
Mm-hmm.
I know you want to keep him and David Montgomery as a 1-2 punch, but don't let this window of opportunity pass you by, because you got it. It's just going to take Jared Goff to be a little bit more consistent.
See, and that's the thing with Detroit, man. You got to pay Jahmyr Gibbs. You got to pay Aiden Hutchinson. You got to pay Brian Branch. You got to pay
Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
You got a lot of dudes you're going to have to take care of over the next couple of years. And, yeah, this was your chance.
It was indeed. Let's go to Melvin, who wants to talk some ball with us this morning. What's going on this morning, Melvin?
Man, it's just been cold, man. I work overnight. I'm a trucker, so I've had to endure this cold, man, all night. So it's good to hear y'all guys early in the morning, man. Y'all make my day for real. But are y'all making y'all picks later on in the show, or
after this segment?
Okay. Well, look, I want to ask y'all's opinion, man, because I got a strange feeling that the SEC basketball gonna come down to the Iron Bowl. I'm looking at the storylines with Aiden Holloway leaving us and going over to Alabama, and Phelan being a long time commitment for Auburn, and I think he went to Kansas and then he transferred to Alabama. I think that's how it went. I'm not sure. But what do y'all think, man? Is it going to be an Iron Bowl take-all? Or, do you think it's setting up that way? Or what y'all think?
Melvin, one way. Oh, thank you, Melvin. One way that does, kind of what you're saying, Alabama and Auburn do play the final game of the regular season in SEC play. So it could potentially come down to that. But to get there, at least for Alabama, your last 3 games of the season for Alabama, on the road at Tennessee, at home against Florida, on the road at Auburn. So
you're going to be battle tested.
That's going to be a little tricky there. But, yeah, you do get Alabama and Auburn the last game of the regular season. They don't play until, like, middle of February for the first time. So you're going to get 2 games there in the span of about 3 weeks. But, yeah, I mean, if you're Auburn, it's not much easier. You're on the road at Kentucky, on the road at A&M, and then at home against Alabama to close out. So if they're able to make it through that stretch and it's they're tied or maybe one team has a one-game lead going into that regular season finale, it's going to be special. But yeah, right now Alabama and Auburn I think still looking like the 2 best teams in the league.
Absolutely. And they're playing, and again, for Auburn, they're still missing Janai Broome.
Yeah.
And they're still finding ways to win basketball games. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's go to Don, who wants to talk with us this morning. What's going on, Don?
Hello, guys. Hope y'all are doing well besides being awful cold.
Yeah, man. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I can complain about. It's cold outside.
I hear you, but no, yeah, Melvin, you hit it right on the note, buddy. It could come down to that very last game, but you got to remember where that last game is, guys. It's in the jungle.
Yeah, that definitely. I'll give you the advantage in that one, Don. No doubt about it.
But Conrad, buddy, I got to give y'all credit, man. And I mean, we had too much to watch Saturday. We had 4 just great basketball games in a row, and including y'all's great win in Kentucky. Congratulations on that, sir.
I appreciate that. That was
Conrad
one of the best games.
Conrad ain't do nothing.
Yes, I did. I was there on my couch.
But I have a funny question to ask you. I don't know how much of the Auburn game you got to watch, everything, but that dadgum the PA announcer for Georgia. If he would have said Georgia basketball one more time, I wanted to go through the freaking TV. God, that guy was awful.
He was loud, and especially in moments where it wasn't necessarily called for. He made sure that you knew he was there the whole time. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, Don.
I mean, he sounded like he was sounding like a PA announcer at a dadgum NBA game. Okay.
They're trying to build the atmosphere there.
Yeah, well, I got to give the Georgia credit. Now that was a great atmosphere, but we did have a lot of Auburn fans there, but I got to give Mike White credit. That coaching move at the end of the game was brilliant. But question for you, and you guys would know, what's the rule? Is the rule that you have to tip the ball at the 0.3 seconds?
Yeah, because you don't have enough time to catch it and shoot it in 0.3 seconds. You only have time to tip the ball, and then, yeah. So that's the rule. You have to tip it in with, I think, like under 0.5 seconds, you have to tip it in.
Okay, well, that leads me to my question, okay? I thought he caught the ball and shot it. If he would have made it, you think they would have had the guts to overturn that?
No, I don't think that because to your point, Don, yeah, it did look like it was a little bit of a catch and shoot in the air. I guess you could kind of get away with that if the clock operator's kind of working in your favor. So yeah, look, I'll put it this way: ball don't lie, right? I think in that situation, that was a clear instance of Auburn deserved to win that game, and that's just how it ended. Yeah,
I hear you. Well, on the football on the Commanders, and Conrad, correct me. Didn't Brian Robinson Jr. play at Alabama besides Gibbs playing at Alabama? Didn't Brian
Robinson? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And he had a great game himself.
Yeah,
he did.
He's turned himself into a nice little running back there in the NFL, no doubt.
Okay, and speaking of that, Damian, this leads me to my question to you. I'm hoping Jorquez Hunter goes to somebody I like because he's going to prove to Hugh Freeze and all the people, and I know you guys do it. I bet you he's going to be a heck of an NFL running back.
Exactly. He got a lot of tread left on those tires because they definitely didn't give him the ball enough when he was at Auburn.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Damien. You know, I always had to hit me below the belt, brother. That a boy.
Well, Don, appreciate you calling in this morning.
Was I not co-signing? Keep it live right here on Morning JOX. We got the national championship game predictions to give you. Keep it live right here on JOX 94.5. Welcome back into Morning JOX, JOX 94.5. Damian Mitchell, Conrad Van Order here with you for a few more moments. As we do have the national championship in college football, the college football playoffs, the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish from Atlanta, Georgia. No SEC representation, but hey, nonetheless, we still got ball. So it has come down to it. Conrad, for the final time for the college football season, we give you our picks. Right now, Ohio State, an 8.5-point favorite. Over under set at 45.5. Right now, my gut's telling me that what we've seen from Ohio State in this playoff run, I think I got to trust it. Because to me, I do think Notre Dame defensively is going to be their biggest challenge that they've seen so far in the playoffs. But I don't think Notre Dame has enough defensively to stop all of the Ohio State weapons. I think Ohio State claims the national title, proves that, you know what, you can buy you a championship in a year. Give me the Ohio State Buckeyes 31-21.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, so I'm going with Ohio State as well. I just think that, you know, what they have, especially at the receiver position, nothing against Notre Dame's wide receivers, but Ohio State has such a huge advantage in that department. I think it's going to be tough for Notre Dame to keep up with them defensively for a full 60 minutes. I do think this Notre Dame team is coming in here with a chip on their shoulder. I think it's going to be a competitive game, at least for the first half.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame's going to be able to stick in it. But maybe it's, you know, similar to the Texas game, a late score for Ohio State kind of makes it look a little more lopsided than it really is. So you went 31-21. My prediction was going to be 31-20 Ohio State. So yeah, I think Ohio State wins. I think they cover. And like you said, Damian, they proved that you can, in fact, win a championship. And we won't be talking about Ryan Day fighting for his job for at least a couple more years.
Yeah, just protect Lou Holtz at all costs if Ohio State does win, because Ryan Day is going to be looking for him. But it should be an exciting ball game. G-Mac will be there on the radio call. He's also going to come up next with Cole Kublik. McElroy and Kublik in the morning. Those guys are next.